Dust, cobwebs, the stench of mothballs. The room was a relic of the past, untouched by time and forgotten by the world. Count Dracula was not pleased with his interior design choices. The once grand room now looked like a scene from a horror movie, and not in a good way. 150 years of slumber in a musty coffin will do that to a vampire. Emerging from his long rest, he felt the weight of the years in every creak of his ancient bones. He'd chosen Charleston, South Carolina, for his post-nap-time snack. The city, with its rich history and vibrant nightlife, seemed like the perfect hunting ground. The city was teeming with college students, prime targets for a thirsty vampire. Their youthful energy and late-night escapades made them easy prey. Fresh blood will do wonders for a guy. After all, nothing rejuvenates like a hearty meal. He slicked back his hair, adjusted his velvet cape, always important for a first impression, and stepped out into the night. The world had changed, but he was ready to adapt. Gone were the gas lamps and horse-drawn carriages. The city had transformed, blending its historic charm with modern conveniences. Blinking, he took in the sight of neon signs and something called a food truck. The modern world was a strange place, full of new and bewildering sights. The Count was already feeling a little out of his element. The hustle and bustle of the city was a far cry from the quiet, eerie nights he was used to. Still, a vampire's got to eat. He could sense the life force pulsing through the city, calling to him like a siren's song. He could smell the sweet pulse of life just a few blocks away, emanating from a lively college bar. The laughter and chatter were like music to his ears. Dracula listened to the voices carefully, drawing on his centuries of experience, blending in with mortals to lessen his Transylvanian accent.
It is time to paint the town red, or should I say, drain it.
The night was young, and Dracbro was ready to have some college fun. With a flourish, he vanished into the moonlit human jungle. The hunt had begun, and Charleston would never be the same again. The bar was pulsating with energy, a hive of activity and excitement, music, laughter, and the tempting aroma of... were those chicken wings? The air was thick with the scent of fried food and the sound of clinking glasses. It was almost enough to distract Dracula from his mission. Almost. His senses were heightened, but his focus remained sharp. His eyes settled on a young woman with long, dark hair sitting alone at a table. She seemed lost in thought, unaware of the fiendish predator's gaze upon her. He thought,
Aha, this woman is perfect. Exactly what I was looking for.
Dracula approached her with his most charming smile. His confidence was unwavering. He leaned in close, whispering softly into her ear.
And my dear madam, may I interest you in a taste of the eternal?
His voice was smooth, almost hypnotic. Just as he prepared to sink his fangs into her neck, his mouth watering in anticipation, a searing pain shot through his jaw. It was unexpected and excruciating. He recoiled with a gasp, clutching his face. The pain was unbearable, unlike anything he had felt in centuries.
What in the devil?
He hissed, more to himself than to the bewildered woman, his pride just as hurt as his jaw. She stared at him, eyebrows raised in shock and confusion. This was not the encounter she had expected. He muttered something about needing a breath mint and hastily retreated. His dignity was in tatters. The throbbing in Dracula's gums was unbearable, and worse, he had never experienced such a humiliating defeat.
Centuries of feeding, centuries of being the apex predator, and I'm foiled by a toothache?
Dracula's frustration was palpable. He groaned, the pain and embarrassment mixing into a bitter cocktail as he crab-walked down a deserted alleyway, cradling his jaw in his hand. The night was supposed to be his, but it had turned into a nightmare. Panic set in. He hadn't felt this vulnerable since, well, ever. A vampire with a toothache? Unheard of. He needed to assess the damage immediately. Rushing into a nearby convenience store, he frantically searched for a mirror. He found himself staring at a wall of brightly coloured packages. Jolly. Rancher? Nerds? And some sort of worm-shaped jelly labelled CBD? What were these strange offerings? Frustration mounting, he grabbed a random foil packet and tore it open hopefully. He found himself staring at cheese-flavoured snack crackers inside a torn, shiny foil bag, which showed no signs of his face being reflected in it. Dracula threw the foil-wrapped crackers down in disgust.
Vlad, you idiot! Vampires don't have reflections!
Dracula berated himself for forgetting one of the cardinal rules of vampirism, as he began to wonder desperately how he was going to be able to examine his fangs without one. This was a disaster of epic proportions. Desperation gnawed at Dracula. His once fearsome fangs were now a source of agony. He had to find a solution, and fast. Time was running out, and the pain was becoming unbearable. The hunger pangs were growing stronger, but the thought of enduring that pain again was unbearable. He needed a dentist? The very idea seemed absurd. The word felt foreign on his tongue. A dentist for a vampire? It was almost laughable. But who else could help? He couldn't go on like this. He needed someone with expertise in teeth. He ducked into an all-night diner, hoping to find someone who looked like they could recommend a good tooth magician. The neon lights flickered ominously. A lone waitress eyed him suspiciously as he approached the counter. Her eyes narrowed, sensing something unusual about him.
Now tell me, my dear, do you know of anyone who specializes in tooth-related matters?
If I had to choose, definitely Dr. Smiles. He's the best.
Dracula shuddered. The snaggle-toothed grub-slinger had said Dr. Smiles with a hollow confidence that made his heart sink. And that name alone was enough to send chills down his spine.
Dr. Smiles, this does not bode well.
Will Dracula be able to find a decent dental professional? Will he be able to get his tooth fixed before he crumbles to dust from being unable to suck living human blood from his victims? Find out in part 2 of Dracula's Dental Dilemma.